Welcome to the studio. Today we will be working in our sketchbooks on page 11. You will notice that I will be doing the Bobby Floss, aka Bob Ross, method of drawing. Each day I will be drawing for you and we will go through 6 different shapes, making lots of different lifelike objects. So to get set up, you're going to need your sketchbook, page 11. You're going to need your straight edge, which is something, it may not be orange, but this color. If you don't have a straight edge, a ruler also works well. If you don't have a ruler, you don't have a straight edge, then you need probably an edge that is straight, that's kind of stiff, that you can use to draw straight lines. Today I'm going to use my straight edge. So on page 11, you're also going to need your pencils. So beginning on page 11, you will notice that there are a couple words appear at the top of the page. It's going to be important that we write the definition of those down. You will hear me use those words over and over, and I want you to be well aware of what they mean. And in today's learning, you're going to take a square, you're going to change it into a box, so you're going to add some 3D lines. We're going to add value and shading, and you're going to get a 3D cube. That's our goal. So to begin with, the definitions of the words. In art, the word parallel means lines that are the same angle. We can also draw the definition. Parallel in art could be that you have 2 lines that go this way, 2 lines that go this way, 3 lines, 4 lines that go this way, and matching lines that go this way. Basically, definition is lines that are the same angle. So if you would take a moment to write that down. Feel free to pause your video if you need to. The second word here is rendering. Rendering simply means that you are going to shade and make this shade with the side of your pencil. So if we're going to show it in an art way, it's using the side of your pencil to do this. Shading with side of pencil. So to get started with drawing today, I will be drawing dark lines so that you can see them. You may draw light lines, and if you do light lines, know that you will go back over those lines once you've decided those are the lines you want. So with this great little straight edge, I want to draw a square right in the middle of the paper. I'm going to show you a simple way to do that. If you have a straight edge that's a decent thickness, what I'd like you to do is draw a top line and draw 2 parallel side lines. Now you might say to me, well, how long should they be? I will be showing you what happens when we've drawn them too long or too short. So if you would draw a horizontal line and 2 parallel vertical lines. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my straight edge in here, and I'm going to lay it on the top line and on the side line, one of the side lines that is. And I'm going to close my box. You will notice that I have some overhang. With that overhang, the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take my eraser. This is where a mechanical drawing pencil eraser works well. Also, a number 2 pencil eraser will work, and your art eraser will work. Any of those erasers will work for that. So I now have accomplished step 1. I've drawn a square. And because I lined up on the edges and closed my box, my square should be a perfect square. Now what we're going to do is we are going to connect this point and extend a diagonal line. So I am going to lay my straight edge in here, connecting this point with this point. And I do not want to draw a line through my box, but instead I want to simply draw a line, a diagonal line like that. And you may ask me, well, how long should that line be? We will be determining that, and we will erase the overhang. Here comes the trickier part. We have one diagonal line, and I need a parallel diagonal line and a parallel diagonal line. So how can I get that? There are several ways you could get that. One way is to simply lay it on the line, and then I'm going to slide my straight edge so that I get to the bottom corner of the box right here. Eyeballing, looking to see if this is about the same space. If yours looks like this, and you don't have the same place, you've not slid it equally. So again, how am I going to do that? I'm going to lay it on here. Lay it on here, and I'm going to slide right down here till I get to my bottom corner. I think that is the easiest way to do it if you have no measurements. The other thing you could do is you could do it because we know that our box is this high. We could go up on this line and we could lay it straight and match and put a dot and go up and match, put a dot and connect my line. That would be another way to do it. For today's lesson, I'd like you to practice the slide method. Now, to get this parallel line can be a little tricky as well. I'm going to lay it on this line, and I'm going to slide this direction. Some of you might find it's easier to lay the bottom on the line and slide till you get to this corner. Eyeballing, looking to see if this looks like it's an equal space. Doing the same slide method. Need to go to there till I get to the corner. Try it again because mine moved on me. Take a pencil and do my line like that. Okay, I can tell right now and I can do a measurement. My line is not parallel to this line, and let me show you how. You see the width there? So I put this corner here, and what do you know? I'm off. So let me show you the other way to get an accurate parallel line. We know that our box is this wide. And because it's that wide, I'm simply going to go up here and I'm going to mark the corner. I'm going to go up here, I'm going to mark the corner. You can see that my diagonal got off. And it's ever so slightly off, but it makes a difference in the box. So now I'm going to lay this here. I'm going to try my slide method and see if I get closer. What do you know? What do you know? So I'm going to draw my correct line and definitely get this bad line out. Now eyeball or check from here to here. If I slide up here, is it a match? What do you know? It's a match. Now what I'd like you to do is simply decide how deep do you want this box. I'm going to take my middle parallel diagonal line and I'm just simply going to put a dot here. Then I'm going to erase my overhang. I obnoxiously drew my line really long so I could show you. So I put my dot. That's how deep my box is going to be. Now I need to find the space here and the space here. So you might think, well, since I drew my line long, I'm just going to connect it. Well, obviously you can tell we got wonkiness going on. That is what not to do. So do not do that. You may ask me, well, Mrs. Baker, what kind of eraser are you using? I love this eraser. It basically is a magic rub eraser put in a pencil form. You have to special order those. Here's one that hasn't been used nearly as much. Alrighty, so back to finding the down line, the parallel third down line, and the parallel 1, 2, 3 horizontal line. So how am I going to find this? There's two ways to do this as well. I can use the slide method. I lay my straight edge on the side of my box, and I equally slide till I get to the dot. And I put a line. Another way I could have done that is I could have taken my straight edge and done a little measurement here, from here to here, to find out how, and I mark right on my straight edge. Then I go down here, I lay the corner right there, and what do you know? It matched up perfectly. And if you eyeball it, and it looks as though this space is parallel, equal, you're probably pretty good. Here's going to get, I think that one's just a little bit tougher to get, but you know what I forgot to do? I obviously want my box looking 3D as soon as I possibly can. I'm almost done. So now what I'm going to do is I can do it one of two ways. I can go with my same measurement. So it's from this corner, it's this measurement right here. Actually, sometimes you get a dirty blender stick, and I've used that, or a dirty straight edge, and I've used it before, so I knew that measurement was not correct. So I mark it, Then I can take this marking, lay it in here, lay it on that line, and mark here. I can do it that way, or I can try the slide method. Slide method, lay my straight edge on my top of my square, and I'm gonna, that dot over here, I'm gonna slide straight up till I get to the dot. And what do you know? I also get to that same mark. Erase your overhang, and maybe you don't have overhang. Maybe you didn't draw your line long enough. Then you might have to put a little bit of your line in. So now you have a 3D box. We are going to add some shading and value to it, and you will be getting what we call a cube. Before we do that, what I'd like to do is show you the simple line of, I want to make this box look like it's sitting on the floor. So if it's sitting on the floor, I'm going to put the floor wall line in. Very easy. Again, I want to keep things parallel. So I'm going to, the back of my box is right here. So in order to make it look like it's actually sitting on the floor, then I need to slide above that line, and I'm going to put a wall and floor line. Notice if this line would have been under here, it would have looked like my box was teetering on maybe a counter. So I think the next step works best if you have a 6B shading pencil. You can do it with the 3B, but I really like the 6B. I also like the method of rendering. And what we need to know is, where do we shade? Well, the shading comes from where the light is. So I am simply going to tell you, for this one, I'm going to say that the light is coming from this direction. The more you draw, the better you get at it, and the better you get at shading. You won't need to write this because it will be evident in your picture. So the way it works is, as light shines, where it touches as light, as the light gets less, it gets more medium shade, and where it's absent of light, it's going to be very dark. So when I look at this, I look as though it's going to be light, middle, dark. So what I like to do, and feel free to move your paper because of the spine in your book and making it comfortable, is I like to lay some lead in a rendering fashion because it helps me, gives me soft edges. I like to lay my lead like this. Now notice, I want something to move around. Here's where that blender stick comes in super helpful. So what I'm going to do is I'm simply going to notice what happens as I use my blender stick. It truly blends my lead together. I release some of the pressure that I'm putting to get lighter value. I go to middle, and I go to darker. You may say, it's still a little bit rough. That's a great place to try paper towel, toilet paper, your finger, any of those will work. And that really softens it up. Keep in mind, if you get outside your edges, you can always clean them up at the very end. Now, still using my 6B pencil, I notice that where is there going to be absent of light? Probably on this edge. So that will be a very, very dark shading. So a very, very dark shading, I'm going to render some really dark lead here. Whoops, I went outside my line a little bit. With dark, I'm going to erase that now. I'm going to take my blender stick. Notice how nicely it melts. It's really good if you use all the lead in the same direction. It will really help your picture. You may say, well, Baker, I can't see the difference between these. There's two things you can do. That is to go in here and add more lead. I also need to use my pencil point to get in to the corners. Well, I still can't see it as well as I'd like to see it. I also see something else I didn't do is erase that dot very good. What you can do is go in here and use an eraser and get this a little bit lighter. And you can erase it. Now you'll notice I don't take my hand and swoosh the shavings off. I don't want to do that. Instead, I want to let those eraser shavings work for me. So I'm going to take my blender stick and I'm going to rub with those eraser shavings on to get it a nice blend. And then when I'm done with the eraser, you can, and then ask yourself, well, can you see the difference? The light, the middle, the dark, the really dark. If you still can't see enough light, just simply go back in and erase it. You may decide that you want to blend with your finger or a piece of paper towel. So I now have the top and the side. So what happens at the front? High probability the light is going to touch here, go middle, and go dark. So again, using my 6B pencil, I like to lay some lead down. So I'm going to notice how I move my sketchbook around because it works easier with my hand. Don't be afraid to do that. So notice how much lead I rendered down. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix a little bit of my smudging in here right now, just to clean that up. Notice I leave the shavings on my paper. I like to use those. I'm going to now take my dirty end of my blender stick. Notice that great blender stick. If you have a large area, like the front of the box is my largest area, I am using a larger blender stick. What I think will actually work best is just a piece of paper towel or toilet paper. So take a piece of paper towel. And I want to see a gradual change from light to middle to dark. I don't want to see a definite line. The other thing I like about paper towel is you can kind of rub any direction. So I'm going to, because I've got some splotchy and I actually want this a little bit lighter value, I'm going to go back in with my eraser. And I'm not going to leave a straight line down here. That doesn't help very much with transitioning. I'm going to take my paper towel. I'm going to go right over there. And see how you can just work with the lead. You can work and work and work. I may decide that I want a little more lead up here. So again, because of the rendering, I can very lightly render some more lead and blend it. Now my last thing to do is to clean up my edges. So I'm simply going to take an eraser, because in art, neatness matters, neatness counts. It's part of craftsmanship. So what I'm going to do, now, one last thing. My light shines here. My box sits on the floor, but my box casts a shadow. So now I want to put the shadow in. Shadow is going to be cast over here because the light is here. To put my shadow in, I'm going to lay some lead down. So you notice I lay a little lead underneath my box, a little lead here, and a little lead here lightly, but I'm also going to use my finger, my paper towel, my toilet paper, whatever you have, and I am going to do a rub. And if you notice, I like to leave a little lightness just to show the definition of the bottom of my box according to my floor or my counter. So if you've just completed your first actual 3D shaded object, what I'd like you to do now is use the rest of your time to take it and make your shading as good as you possibly can. A few tips are, it is always helpful to keep your shading lines, your lead lines of your shading, of your rendering, going the same direction. Also, you will notice that in Google Classroom, to turn this in, you will take a nice, good picture of it. You will insert it into the provided Google slide, and you will save it until we have done several drawings, and you will turn them in together.